Eva is a conversational robot that we developed at our lab. It uses mostly speech as an intervention, which has proven to be effective in therapies related to dementia. It also exhibits emotion. It doesn't move. It just moves the head, but it doesn't move around the premises. So what we've done is we incorporate knowledge of the individual. So, for instance, where the person was born, places it has visited, some of their favorite food, and in general, their preferred topics of conversation. So this is implemented in an ontology, and so when therapy session starts, we tell the robot who's going to be in that session, and then it customizes the conversation to that individual. It also has information, for instance, related to what's the probable length of a response to a query by a person. This from historical information. So it knows that, for instance, person A usually provides very short answers, while person B usually talks a bit more. And so it uses that to control the conversation, to guide the conversation. So that's the main features of Eva. And so with that, we implemented a cognitive stimulation therapy that is guided autonomously by the robot. So it has a predefined structure that it starts by saying hi to each of the persons who are participating. Normally there are 3, sometimes 2. And then it asks one of them to play some music. Basically, it gives them a choice. Again, the type of query is based on the profile of that individual. So for some individuals, you'll just give them, for instance, 2 choices of two songs. For some others, it'll be an open question if the person is capable of providing an answer of preferred music they want to play. And in some cases, if the person even has difficulties deciding between 2 alternatives, it will just suggest one option and say, what about I play this song? And it also has in its database songs that they know that it knows trigger them, or that they enjoy, or they like singing, they know, etc. So it chooses among those alternatives, and for each individual it might be a little different. After that, it starts a conversation, sort of a reminiscence therapy. It starts a conversation with the individual, one at a time, although sometimes some of the other participants jump into the conversation. To give you an example of how this database is built, in one instance, one of the new participants, we knew he was from some city in Mexico, so we gave that information to the robot. And the robot asked him about that city, and he didn't react all that enthusiastically. He answered with short sentences. But then afterwards, in that same session, when the robot was asking another person from the city where she lived, this other participant jumped in and started talking about this city because he actually lived there for a few years. And for some reason, he was more enthusiastic about this, talking about this place. It reminded him of more things, or more pleasurable things. I don't know. And so after that, we incorporated this information into the robot, that this city is perhaps even more relevant to him than the city where he was born. So over time, we incorporate more information into the robot. Some of that is done automatically. Some of that is done by hand after analyzing each session. And then there's a little game after that, like completing phrases. And the session ends with a relaxation session that lasts about 2 to 3 minutes, where the robot asks them to close their eyes and start breathing. And then the session is completed. The robot asks them asks them how they feel, and it ends the session. They normally lasts about 30 minutes each. So in this therapy, this was conducted over, 14 sessions on 9 consecutive weeks. It was 1 or 2 sessions per week. We had 10 participants, but one of them actually left the residence within 1 month or so of the intervention, about half of the intervention. So we incorporated a new person to complete the groups, but we didn't actually follow them. We didn't have baseline information from him. And we analyzed the behaviors before and after the intervention, mostly through interviews and questionnaires that were completed by their caregivers. And from that information, we found that the intervention was successful. It improved behaviors in all of them in the short term. That means in the afternoon after the session or the next day or so. And in half of them, it improved behaviors in the long term. So days or weeks after the intervention was completed.